two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's Super Bowl week here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Welcome back to another edition of NewsWire. Great to be back here with you, and make sure you stick with us all week long. We're live in New Orleans all day long, all night long. Make sure you keep it right here, leading you up until Sunday. Of course, game day, 6:40 Eastern time, as the Super Bowl will be live in New Orleans. All right, we got lots to cover here on today's show. There's so much news to get to, especially in the National Basketball Association. So we'll go through it all. What happened, what's set to happen with the trade deadline coming, and also Gilbert McGregor will join us courtesy of Sporting News to go over the very latest. Is it Carlan Gay, actually? Is it Carlan Gay that's joining us here on the show? Carlan Gay will join us here on the show, my bad. In addition to that, we're going to have Pat Evans. I know I'll get his name right. Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. He will join us as well. And our buddy here from SportsGrid running the show, Mike Cardano, will preview all of the information coming up this week, some very special announcements as well. He is live in New Orleans with us, so stick around. That's coming up in about 30 minutes from now as well. So let me not delay any further. Let's get the latest in the National Basketball Association, because shockwaves have been sent, needless to say, on Saturday and Sunday, with some major players being dealt to several teams. Of course, the biggest trade of the weekend happened between Dallas and Los Angeles, where franchise icon, fair to say, Luka Doncic has been dealt to the Los Angeles Lakers. He will hopefully suit up for them soon. He has been out and hurt. He's had a hamstring issue, but he is set to play, it would look like, the remainder of his career in Los Angeles if they want to make that happen. Also, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris went to the Lakers. Anthony Davis is the prize going back to Dallas, as well as Max Christie and a 2029 first-round pick. It's probably one of the biggest trades in the history of the National Basketball Association. So much discussion as to why Dallas decided to trade a 25-year-old superstar away, especially to a team in the West like Los Angeles. Needless to say, the Mavericks general manager, Nico Harrison, their head coach, Jason Kidd, tried to answer many of those questions on Sunday.
And, we think defense wins championships, and we're bringing in one of the best two-way players in the league. A lot of people don't talk about, what he does defensively and offensively, but, if you can name first-team All-NBA players that are also first-team All-Defensive players. That's a unique unicorn to try to find, and we're able to find that. And as well, you look at Max Christie. He was their starting two guard, guarded all the top players in the league, and he's young and athletic and bouncy, and gets his hands on lots of balls. So we really feel that they're bringing in, they're adding into the culture that we're trying to create here. We feel that defense wins championships, and we're excited to go. We feel like we're built to win now as well as in the future.
Yeah, I think it's, it's something that, as Nico's brought up, we are aligned, right? And so just understanding Luka, when I first came here, excited about the opportunity to coach an upcoming star and who became a mega star. And I was just blessed to have that opportunity to coach him. But when you look at the vision of the team and what Nico wants to build, I truly support that, and truly believe that the players that we're getting are the ones that can help us achieve that, and that's to win a championship.
And Anthony Davis will suit up for the Mavericks in their next game. Meanwhile, that wasn't the only big trade this weekend. The Sacramento Kings tried to get De'Aaron Fox to sign a long-term extension. He didn't want to do it. And now he'll join Wemby in San Antonio. So they've got 2 mega stars there now, maybe a third, who knows in the future. Also, Jordan McLaughlin goes to the Spurs. The Kings get Zach LaVine. Of course, the Bulls are punting the season. Sidney Cisco, 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks. And the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick back via the San Antonio Spurs. There's no question that San Antonio is now building for now and the future by adding De'Aaron Fox. But needless to say, the Sacramento Kings just continue to have a hard time keeping their stars out west. Meanwhile, big news in the world of sports wagering or opportunities today. Prediction markets, very popular around the country. Kalshi and Robinhood now have their first broker. 25 million more people now have exposure to their prediction markets. The online trading platform ended months of speculation by saying it would launch by the Super Bowl. Robinhood on November the 5th said that a total of 400 million people were on the contracts trading on their platform. So a new way to bet on prediction outcomes. They don't call it betting. They call it prediction outcomes. Okay, fair enough. One signing in Major League Baseball yesterday, the hot stove coming to an end here as pitchers and catchers set to report in less than 2 weeks. Jack Flaherty and the Tigers are in a reunion here. 2 years, $35 million. He also has an opt-out after the first season. Flaherty was hoping to get more than 2 years. Of course, he pitched for the Dodgers at the end of last season and pitched pretty well as well. All right, Pebble Beach comes to a close. The first big golf tournament, fair to say, in 2025, and it goes to Rory McIlroy. He wins out west, captures his first PGA Tour win of the season as McIlroy, one of the top golfers in the world. Not a huge surprise there. Maybe a bigger surprise in the world, the National Football League, where Justin Tucker continues to have allegations piling up against him. More massage therapists have accused him of misconduct. In case you missed this story on Friday, the Baltimore Banner is reporting that 9 massage therapists in the Baltimore area have accused him of inappropriate behavior back about 12 years ago. This apparently started. Tucker, of course, said that none of this happened. So it's a story that the NFL is investigating, and so we'll stay on top of it as well. As we mentioned, the Super Bowl, of course, is on Sunday. If you follow any kind of football, you know that as well. And, of course, our full coverage begins today, live from Radio Row. We got some great guests coming up for you, and all of our shows are there. So make sure you stay tuned. And 3 o'clock Eastern, Scott Farrell is live coast to coast. Chip Kelly is leaving Ohio State. He's going back to the NFL. He's going to be the Raiders offensive coordinator. You may remember he coached in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. Not a lot of people remember that one. He did coach with the Eagles for a couple of years as well. Also, Eric Bieniemy is back in the NFL after leaving the league to go coach at UCLA. He's going to be the Bears running backs coach. Mike Evans is thinking about joining Team USA for flag football in the Olympics. So that could be a banner day for him as well. There's no question that that's going to be a popular sport, I would think, coming up in 2028. In addition, let's get to the latest in the National Basketball Association on the court. Is anybody watching on the court? I know we're watching off the court. OG Anunoby from the Knicks over the weekend left in their game against the Lakers with a foot sprain. He avoided a torn Achilles, so he's listed as day-to-day. DeJounte Murray, though, he ruptured his Achilles tendon in the Pelicans loss. He's going to miss the remainder of the season. And 8-time All-Star former MVP Tina Charles is signing with the Sun. She was drafted number 1 overall by them back in 2010. As far as finals are concerned from the NBA last night, Jaren Jackson Jr. had 37 points as the Grizzlies beat the Bucks. Memphis is playing well. They even beat them without John Morant. The Celtics, meanwhile, rallied from 26-point down. They beat the 76ers 118-110, a huge game for Jason Tatum. He had 35 points. The Raptors beat the Clippers 115-108. for their 8th win in 10 games, and also Cade Cunningham, 22 points and 15 assists. The Pistons beat the Bulls 127-119. In college basketball over the weekend, the homecoming for John Calipari went very well for him as Arkansas goes to Kentucky and shocks them 89-79, the final score there in his return to Lexington. Cooper Flagg and Duke just rolled all over North Carolina. They picked up a 17-point win. Cooper Flagg has been one of the best players in all of college hoops and will be exciting to see in the tournament coming up next month. 21 points for him, 8 rebounds. And Kansas State beat Iowa State 80-61. UConn's Liam McNeely expected to be back against St. John's on Friday, according to Dan Hurley. Now, there's another story going on in the National Football League, which broke right before we came on the air. it looks like one of the best players on defense, not just on the Cleveland Browns, but in the NFL, Myles Garrett, according to many published reports, Super Bowl week has requested a trade away from the Cleveland Browns. So certainly if that ends up happening, you're talking about arguably the very best defensive lineman, either him or TJ Watt, depending on how you slice it. But Garrett, one of the very best, still has a lot of football left in him in the NFL, requesting a trade away from the Cleveland Browns. We'll take a quick timeout. Speaking of trade season, my gosh, Carlan Gay from Sporting News, he's been busy. Going to try to break down all these deals that happened over the weekend and what could happen on trade deadline day as well. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. Be right back.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
But is it just a matter of his contract, his age? I mean, usually things like this get fixed pretty quickly, but this one is not fixed, and now it's just super uncomfortable.
The opportunity or the idea of getting another team involved adds more complication to the situation, and it doesn't seem like a resolution is anywhere in sight, but the more suspensions come in, the more it's clear that the saga is over, or his time there is over.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. Hey, we woke up Carlan Gay from the offseason in the NBA. We're bringing him here on the show to break down the latest in the NBA as far as all these trades are concerned. I mean, the NBA, Carlan, they live and die with this drama and all this trade stuff. I mean, who would have thought a couple of weeks ago we thought all our focus would be on Jimmy Butler, and it turned out like he's the last guy to get traded, Carlan. But, you know, certainly this is as big a trade as we've ever seen in the league. I don't recall another one like this, where you have a superstar player just dealt in the middle of the night, apparently or reported at least in the middle of the night, to one of the most iconic franchises in the history of sports in the Los Angeles Lakers. So it's like, it kind of feels like, how did they get lucky again? You know, the commissioner several years ago, there was a Chris Paul trade. I know that was not allowed, and people are bringing that up. I don't know that this is comparable to that, but you would think that if Luka is healthy and in shape, starting as soon as next year, it immediately changes the future of the Lakers franchise.
Yeah, the Chris Paul trade, I don't think is on the same level as it, the one that got vetoed. Of course, the initial trade was sending him to the Lakers. I don't think it's on the same level as this, because that trade was so lopsided that, you know, the commissioner at the time had to step in. David Stern had to step in and kind of, you know, make sure that the Lakers weren't going to get this incredible super team at the time with Chris Paul, and then they were going to somehow regain Pau Gasol. Like that was a part of that as well when they shipped him out. This one is a like for like, right? Like we're trading 2 top 12-ish players. The only difference is really the age, right? Like Anthony Davis is in his 30s, early 30s. Luka Doncic is not yet hit his prime, just 25 years old and still has time on his contract. So it is weird in the sense that you are trading someone, or the Dallas Mavericks are saying to themselves, like, we got the best out of Luka and good luck, deal with him over there. We don't think that he's going to be able to live up to the super max contract that we would have been able to pay him a summer from now, not even this summer, the next upcoming summer. So they were trying to stop a problem, and in doing so, they actually created a bigger problem for themselves and having to answer all these questions, because now this team that they've built with Anthony Davis has to win a championship, because they were saying that, hey, the finals team that we got last year, the team that was 3 wins away from winning an NBA championship, just wasn't good enough, and we feel we're better with Anthony Davis. So now the only way to actually prove that is to go out and win an NBA title.
Yeah, and so, Carlan, here's what I would say. As somebody who's reported on professional sports for a long time and considered, as far as baseball goes, to be an insider of some kind, I feel like I have good sense for this sort of stuff, Carlan. And I think that what you're saying in the end, I think is accurate. But I truly do feel, and I've seen this play out before, the Russell Wilson trade comes to mind as well. I got to feel like the Mavericks know him better than anybody else. And for them to do this, I think jumping to conclusions, and again, I don't know how it's going to work out for the Mavericks, but jumping to conclusions to just assume that they don't know what they're doing, I think is super foolish, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like eventually a reporter in Dallas, Carlan, maybe a national reporter, and it could be a year from now, it could be 2 years from now, I think a lot more is set to come out about why this deal was done. Maybe it'll be fed to a reporter in some way. It'll be off the record. I don't know. But I'm just not buying that the Mavericks just are silly, or a silly franchise, and didn't know what they were doing. I think personally they felt like, in my opinion, that like a thief in the night, you call one team, once you open up the door to everybody, everyone starts wondering, what the heck's going on with this guy? Why would they want to trade him? I think they felt like this was the max that they could get. Maybe some people don't feel like it's a lot in Anthony Davis, but I think that something else happened here.
Yeah, and there's 2 different things here, right? Like there's their public perception, and that's what I was just speaking on. Public perception is the Dallas Mavericks made a huge mistake going forward. And like I said, the only way to kind of change that in most people's minds is to go out and win an NBA title. If you want my honest opinion, I think the pressure here is on Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic was just sold to the Los Angeles Lakers for what many believe is less than what his actual value is. Luka Doncic is being told, like, hey, you were not good enough to win us a title here. Good luck over there. Luka Doncic was told, hey, you've been able to get away with certain things here in Dallas that you might not be able to get away with in LA. And some of that is true, right? Dallas is not a small market, but it's not LA. LA is a national story, whether they're good or bad, and not just in the NBA. Like, when they transcend sports, like they're one of those franchises we talk about throughout sports. They're in the level of the Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys. That's where the Lakers are. We put them on a pedestal. So game 21, when Luka Doncic isn't playing defense, that is going to be a talking point. And that hasn't happened so far in his career. He's going to have to step up and prove to the Dallas Mavericks that they made a huge mistake by getting rid of him here. And the only way to do that is to really win a title, because all the greats have done that in LA. You talk about Shaq, you talk about Kobe, you go back even further, Magic, Kareem. Anyone that has ever worn a Laker uniform that has been considered an all-time great has been able to win a championship, and that includes LeBron James, who is now his teammate. So championship or bust really right now for Luka Doncic. And a guy who started the last 2 seasons as a favorite to win the MVP has not yet gotten an MVP. Like, that's not going to be good enough in LA. You got to maximize that potential and deliver. And it starts now. The minute he starts and steps foot on the court, whenever he does come back from injury.
Yeah, and there's nobody better at playing the media game than LeBron, and he's going to play that right now and say all the right things. I know that he hasn't talked a lot yet, Carlan. I'm not I mean, listen, I covered him here in Miami. I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just not particularly interested in what he has to say, because he's got to say all the right things here, I would assume. But pairing him up with Luka along with Hachimura and Reeves, I mean, does it make the Lakers better right now, do you think? Or my perception is that this is more for the future.
Yeah, this is not an NBA title contending team right now. But, you bring up LeBron James. This is the first time in LeBron James's career where the team is not on his timeline anymore. He's not the guy that they're going to build this team around. They're building it around the 25-year-old superstar in Luka Doncic. So whatever LeBron has to say, he's got to get on the Luka Doncic train. It's not the other way around. LeBron James could end his career as a Los Angeles Lakers if he wants to, but that's going to end sooner than Luka Doncic is going to be around. So he's got to get on board with whatever's happening with the front office, who clearly just took the power out of his hands here and given it all to Luka Doncic, because this team is only going to go as far as Luka could take them.
Sacramento Kings, I feel bad for them, Carlan. It feels like we're doing this every 5-10 years, like they just can't keep their stars. De'Aaron Fox will pair up with Wemby in San Antonio. Huge get for them.
Yeah, huge get for them, and they kept a lot of assets to be able to make trades. They have the Atlanta Hawks draft pick, which is going to be a pretty good draft pick because the Atlanta Hawks aren't really good right now, and that could end up being Cooper Flagg. So could you imagine Wemby, Cooper Flagg, and De'Aaron Fox in San Antonio? They did a good job of keeping some assets here after this trade. And in Sacramento's case, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine didn't work in Chicago. They're now older in Sacramento. Don't know how it works there.
Me either. Poor Kings. All right, Carlan, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
But is it just a matter of his contract, his age? I mean, usually things like this get fixed pretty quickly, but this one is not fixed, and now it's just super uncomfortable.
The opportunity or the idea of getting another team involved adds more complication to the situation, and it doesn't seem like a resolution is anywhere in sight, but the more suspensions come in, the more it's clear that the saga is over, or his time there is over.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. All of our crew is assembled in New Orleans, ready to give you exclusive content over on SportsGrid. Adam Caplan this week will be a part of that, but he checks in once more with us before he heads to New Orleans from the Northeast. Adam, once again, great to have you back here on NewsWire. You know, I don't think that they'll ever change back the week off. You know, I'm fine with it. You know, the build up and everything that goes with it. I remember when they didn't have a week off in between, and it definitely felt rushed. So I'm good with the way that they have things now, and the storylines they'll tell themselves this week. It'll be fun.
Yeah, Craig, look, covering this business nearly 30 years, I could just tell you the hype machine. When you go from having no bye to a bye, it gives the league likes it. You get the word out. But the big thing about the bye is, Greg, I'm glad you mentioned that. For Philly, you have the left knee injury for Jalen Hurts. You have the left knee injury for A.J. Brown. You had Landon Dickerson, their left guard, his knee injury. Cam Jurgens, his back injury. They're all going to play this week. Not that they wouldn't play last week. In fact, the Eagles made it clear that Dickerson and Jurgens would be available. But give them an extra week off their feet for the most part. They had 3 very light practices. Now you don't have to worry about that. Tonight, by the way, is media night. They used to, when you and I were covering league many decades ago, many years. Media day was on Tuesday. Not anymore. They moved to Monday night, and that's what the clubs wanted. Actually, they wanted it done as early as possible.
Yeah, it used to be on Tuesday, and then I remember the whoever the halftime artist would perform at the media center. I think Wednesday or Thursday. I mean, it was a blast covering it for many years when I did it, and we'll have a blast all week long. So make sure you keep it right here. All right, Adam. So there's a real chance I think that the Chiefs are going to be 2-point favorites by the time they kick off on Sunday. It's been like 2 cents up, 2 cents up, 2 cents up. It's going real slow. It's at like minus 125. At Kansas City minus 1.5 right now. So once this gets to close to 130, that tells me that the Chiefs are going to be a 2-point favorite. Total seems locked in here at 48.5. And it feels like a lot of people are going to back the Chiefs, but certainly the odds tell us that there's a lot of people backing Philly as well here, or else they'd be 3-point favorites. You'll never see a 3, by the way, in this game.
No, it's not moving 1.5 because it would only move a half this early if either team had a major injury and the guy was not going to play. That's different. That's not happening here. As I just outlined, these injured guys for the Eagles are going to be ready to go. Yeah, it has not moved from 1.5. Like, that's very interesting. So, if you look at 2 years ago, Craig, and that game where the Eagles defensive line were slipping, this is the year that the team had 70 sacks, a team record for the regular season. That was negated by the players were slipping. Remember, the field was terrible. Well, you don't have to worry about that this time. It's at New Orleans, where the Eagles won in week 3. This is, if you remember the Saints, Craig, the first 2 weeks were setting records for the first 2 weeks of the season. And then Vic Fangio put that front end. He moved Zach Bonney, former Saint, to defensive end. They'd not shown that on tape, so they know that field. That's not a problem. To be honest with you, we always look for an angle. Okay, what's the angle? There's an issue. There's no injury issue. Okay, we're good there. There was a revenge angle for the Eagles from 2 years ago. Okay, that clearly. I know how steamed they were after they lost that game with the field conditions being terrible. That's certainly going to be on the back of their minds. Now, obviously, Craig, some of those players have left. The Eagles have 2 new coordinators. Now, if you look at the Chiefs situation, Steve Spagnuolo's back as the defense coordinator. Andy Reid still calls the plays on offense with the help of his trusted lieutenants. So that's the same. In fact, when you look at both rosters, the Eagles have had a major changeover on defense comparatively to 2 years ago, where the Chiefs have kept a number of starters on both sides of the football.
Yeah. Brandon Graham is a player I know that you wanted to mention here, Adam. I totally, no offense, forgot all about him. I didn't realize he could return here for this game.
This is one of the most remarkable stories. Okay, first of all, Brandon Graham, a first-round pick, Craig, in 2010. Yes, he turns 36 in April. It's unheard of that he's actually playing, but he suffered a torn left triceps tendon. Okay, he had it repaired. Now, as he announced right after the game against the Rams in Week 12, November 23rd, that he was done for the season. Well, typically it's a 4 to 5 month rehab. Well, he's going to come back, barring something unforeseen in practice this week. He's probably going to play. He's trending towards playing. He kind of hinted to the reporters locally that he's going to play. The only time I think it's ever happened, in fact, he brought this up, is Hollis Thomas, a former Eagles lineman who was with the Eagles for a number of years and left before Brandon was drafted by the Eagles in 2010. When you look at this situation, the defensive lineman, he suffered the same injury, but it was back, Hollis Thomas, in about 10 weeks. So Graham, by the way, is going to wear a brace on his left elbow. Again, barring something unforeseen. And the guy, what you have to know, Craig, is he's an emotional leader. And by the way, that game that he had against the Rams, he was unstoppable. He had 2 sacks and playing out of his mind. He's also very integral in their nickel package. So whatever you can do, you're going to pick.
Thanks, Adam.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
But is it just a matter of his contract, his age? I mean, usually things like this get fixed pretty quickly, but this one is not fixed, and now it's just super uncomfortable.
The opportunity or the idea of getting another team involved adds more complication to the situation, and it doesn't seem like a resolution is anywhere in sight, but the more suspensions come in, the more it's clear that the saga is over, or his time there is over.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report, the very latest on sports betting going on across the country. We'll get an update on Maryland. And Pat, we begin, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, we're beginning with Mississippi again? I mean, 1 week they're not going to be, have sports betting online. The next week they are going to have it online. It feels like any time that we sort of say that Mississippi is about to launch online sports betting, somebody runs in from one of the casinos, like Robert De Niro, with a bat and says, no, we're not doing that. Is that going to happen this time too?
It could. It very well could. And that would be a fun scene for me to watch, I think, is somebody running into the state legislator with a baseball bat and just smashing things up. That'd be fun. But yeah, I mean, Mississippi, as we know, it launched in-person sports betting back in 2018. It was one of the first states to get up and running in that sense. And since then, there's been this kind of slow roll push to go online. Of course, on property, you can have the apps, but that doesn't really mean anything to anybody. And yeah, so now, a lot of times in these legislative sessions, we'll see really kind of slow kind of pushes, things that don't happen for a couple of weeks, couple months, whatever. And then all of a sudden there's a big rush. And for some reason, this session, I'm seeing things, and we'll talk about a couple more in a few minutes, kind of get really started and rolling fast. And that's exactly what's happening here in Mississippi. The online sports betting bill that was introduced by Casey Ure moved past his gaming commission committee to go to the full House floor. And so that's a pretty big step. It is a step it took last year. And in fact, it passed overwhelmingly through the House last year. So, and it then went to the Senate, where of course, then it kind of ran into a big buzzsaw and fell apart when they stripped the language. And then in the conference committee, where they had to iron out the differences, well, one had zero language and the other had all the language. The Senate just said, we're not going to vote on it. So what happens this year kind of depends on what kind of developments we've had in the Senate. I haven't been able to talk to anybody in the Senate side yet. We'll see. Maybe there's more, push. I mean, last year an industry source, after it all fell apart, told me there's a lot of work to be done in the Mississippi Senate to get it over the edge. And to your point, it is a lot of the locally owned casinos, not the big major regional or national casino brands like Penn and MGM and whatnot. It's the local, one or two places, one or two casino, type corporations that are saying, "Whoa, we don't want to fall behind," these giant operators, and so there are some things they're trying to do. I mean, they upped it from one skin to 2 skins, and it's all tethered to those casinos. There's kind of a redistribution fund that might, help out the casinos that aren't doing as much or choose not to do anything because they don't want to fall behind. So there's a few things that might kind of help move the needle for those local casinos, but also might not. And they might still just dig their feet in and say, hey, we're fine with it in our casinos and everybody else can have it in their casinos. But once you go statewide, we're going to lose everything that we've kind of tried to build. and we don't want it. So, and those local companies hold a lot of power with these legislators. So, we'll have to see what happens and what kind of development we've had in the last year in Mississippi Senate. But I would expect it to pass the House again because it was so overwhelming last year. So we'll see where it goes, and I'll keep you up to date, obviously.
Okay. That can be said for Maryland, a similar situation where last year we went through a period of time in the legislation where, online was potentially set to happen. What's the latest update here for 2025 on Maryland? Are they very similar in the same boat as Mississippi?
Kind of almost the exact same boat as Mississippi, just given this is online casino versus online sports betting. Last year it passed the House, fell on deaf ears in the Senate, even despite Senator Ron Watson really trying to push it through in the Senate. This year it's starting back up in the Senate. I mean, there's bills on both sides, but Watson is now rolling out the same bill as Vanessa Atterbury on the House side, which again did pass. And so they're just saying, hey, let's just both do the same piece of legislation. Let's get it through. There should be a hearing on Atterbury's bill in the House, and I would expect it kind of, again, to move similarly through the House as it did last year, just like in Mississippi. But last week there was a 6-hour hearing in the Senate, and it was all the same. It was replay the hits, basically. The Cordish companies came out in opposition. They don't want online casinos. They're worried about cannibalization. You had local labor unions coming up saying, we don't want to lose the jobs that might lose because, you're cannibalizing revenue. Watson came out and said, hey, we're going to try to put things in here that can make sure that the casinos don't fire people. We're seeing the revenue go up, and if these companies are losing jobs or eliminating jobs, it's out of pure greed. Even if it's, despite you might lose some brick and mortar revenue, the overall revenue from these casino companies are going up. So why would you have to cut those jobs? Basically is what some of the proponents are saying. So we'll see what kind of bridges can be made to the local labor unions. I think some of the casino companies are going to similarly dig their feet in. Penn Entertainment was in opposition last week, but it wasn't because of necessarily going online. They just thought the language could be written a little bit better for them. So there's, certainly a lot of things that kind of need to be tweaked here in Maryland. Again, they've got a giant budget shortfall coming, and we know there's a bill in the overall state budget to increase the sports betting tax rate, and that could be a pretty big boon, not necessarily big enough to really make a dent in that state deficit. But when you see that kind of happening, you might see the politicians also say, hey, this is a good revenue gain, along with all the, let's bring it into the regulated market and in the fresh light. So we'll see again what happens. I would again expect it kind of to take a similar path and get through the House like it did last year. And this 6-hour hearing, there was again a 6-hour hearing or thereabouts last year, same sort of arguments. So we'll see what kind of compromises we can get from the lawmakers here, and if any can get done. So again, Maryland's going to be just like Mississippi. It's following a very similar path. What can these states do to make it a different end result than last year?
All right. And finally, I feel like I'm burying the lead here by saying, okay, another story here with online casino gaming possibility in Indiana, because as part of the story, which you can read about over at legalsportsreport.com, Pat, it looks like not only would online casino come to the state of Indiana, but doubling the sports betting tax rate too. So I don't want to lose that sight over the story that you have up here.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation because, less than 6 months ago, there was a conviction for gambling related conspiracy in the Indiana state legislature. And that's kind of where we're at. At the beginning of last session, we heard the Senate leadership saying, we're not going to act on any gambling issues because of this. And we've lost the public trust on this. We got to take a little moratorium. This year, online casino did indeed pass a House committee. And that's, I think, a huge step after a whole year where they just decided not to talk about it. We've also got the leadership on both sides of the legislature in Indiana saying, hey, gambling is such a big industry here. We need to kind of make sure we handle it still and not just kind of let it go dead. But we have to do it right. And we have to keep in mind that there was this kind of criminal activity around here that we need to stay cognizant about. But yeah, we'll see what happens. You've got both sides of the legislature seemingly open to hearing this. The Senate is a little bit more cautious of just going for it for revenue, and they want to get everything right. Not that the House doesn't, but of course, that's what they're saying from the public side of it. So it does have the little sports betting tie-in of I guess not little, to your point, of hiking up the tax rate. So little things here and there. Everybody's considering online casino now this year and getting further than I almost kind of expected because of the headwinds we've seen at the U.S. Senate level and the like. So a lot is happening this spring, more so and quicker than I expected. So I don't know. We've got a lot to talk about in the next coming weeks, Craig.
We do. Pat, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up later this week.
Yeah, thanks as always, Craig.
All right, coming up next, we go live to New Orleans. The Big Easy has our very own SportsGrid's Vice President of Operations, Mike Cardano, in the house. I'll catch up with the boss up next. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. Don't go away.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
But is it just a matter of his contract, his age? I mean, usually things like this get fixed pretty quickly, but this one is not fixed, and now it's just super uncomfortable.
The opportunity or the idea of getting another team involved adds more complication to the situation, and it doesn't seem like a resolution is anywhere in sight, but the more suspensions come in, the more it's clear that the saga is over, or his time there is over.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid. Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Let's go live now out to Radio Row in New Orleans, where our very own Vice President of Operations here, Mike Cardano, is here on the show. I've been talking to Mike about sports for 25 years or 20 years. Feels like it's been a really long time, and very rare appearance does he make on my show here. So, Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate the appearance. How are things thus far out in New Orleans?
You got audio for me?
Okay.
You got audio for me?
We got you, Mike. Go ahead. Start over. Pretend like you never said anything.
They just finished getting me dressed. It's an arduous task here. So, security, it's all the time. It's a big thing at the NFL. But this year in particular, everywhere you turn, if you don't like dogs, bomb-sniffing dogs everywhere, you can't turn your head left or right without seeing a police vehicle or a police. And the other thing is the people hate these two teams. They hate the two teams. And the other thing I notice here is a lot of foreign broadcasters here. We've got somebody from London behind us. There's Mexico over here, Ireland over here. So they're obviously pushing the international stuff.
And the set looks awesome, man, by the way. Let's show that set again, guys. Let's pull that, Luke, pull that up, yeah.
That's because I'm on it.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I don't know, 50-50, but the actual set looks fantastic. So great job by everybody out there. Mike, in the past, the media day was tomorrow. They do it on Monday night now. Why? What is? I mean, I know you've been the last couple of years. So what do you make of that change?
I don't know why. Really, I think it's the least favorite thing for the players. Maybe they try to get it out of the way. Think about it. The teams come out for 2 hours each. I think the Eagles go first, and then the Chiefs. They have 10 podiums for the most prominent players, and the coaches, they have a podium. And then the rest of the players, they just mill around. And think about doing a press conference for 2 hours. It starts out with football questions, and then, it's boxes and briefs by the time you're an hour and a half into it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much been the case. I don't think you're really getting anything that we don't know by now. But one of the things that we will get all week long is, of course, when anybody goes to the Super Bowl and they cover it, and I've done this on Radio Row for many years, Mike, we get some fantastic guests coming through. And I know that we have a lot of guests planned this week. So tell us more about some of the people that we could expect to be seeing here on the network throughout the week.
There's a lot of running backs we have. I wrote some of this stuff down before we came. We've got the Dolphins backfield. Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. Rashad White will be with us. 49ers All-Pro linebacker Fred Warner. Giants linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau. Todd Gurley, Brian Westbrook, Joey Porter Sr., Donovan McNabb. And then we've got a couple of Hall of Famers. Marshall Faulk, Emmitt Smith, Thurman Thomas, tons of others. There'll be actors, comedians, some NIL stuff going on here with college players. I'm really looking forward to see if we can pin down Donna Kelsey. She's, she doesn't hold back. And I know the kids are telling me you're a big Swiftie fan. So we're pulling out all the stops to try to get on Taylor for you.
Okay, thanks. Nobody on the Mets, though, huh? No Mets out there for you?
Nobody on the Mets.
Nobody on the Mets? I was hoping for some Mets. So look, we've been seeing these promos on YouTube and on video and on LinkedIn and on Twitter X about this big announcement about what's coming this week. And I think that we've done a good job keeping it secret, with the exception of I'm with the network, so I still am waiting on the announcement myself. So Paige is out there this week, and I know that she's got a new YouTube channel and a lot of programming and shows that are being put together by the great people at SportsGrid. How much can you tell us about this before she makes the rounds and actually reveals it? I feel like I should be in the know on this stuff. Like, aren't I somewhat of an insider as it is, and I can't even get inside my own network here?
It's a secret. That's the point, right? So if anybody saw the press release, we hired Paige Sporadic. She's going to be doing some content for us. If you go to lostpages.com, see how I did that, Lost Pages? She's doing the segment she's going to be doing is going to be called Lost Pages, and it's LAS Page PAIGEAS. You'll see the content there, and if you subscribe, you'll get an additional episode sent to you every week. It's engaging. It's a little different than we generally do here on the network, and so I think you'll like it.
Okay, and doing the Radio Row interviews this week, I'm guessing too. We can catch that all over all the networks. They're like booking her around, correct?
She'll be there tonight. So I'm sure she'll be sticking a microphone in Patrick Mahomes' face.
Okay, I look forward to that interview. Maybe we'll get some video and play it as well. All right, you want to do the obligatory prediction of the Super Bowl, Mike, or do you want to pass on that? You want to actually predict the game or no?
Sure, I got a prediction. This is easy. This is going to be deja vu all over again, right? It's a repeat of 2 years ago. What was it, 38-35? It's going to be same score. We'll have a tush-push controversy. We'll have a late hit on Pat Mahomes with 3 or 4 seconds left to go that maybe was not a late hit, and game-winning field goal by Butker. Same thing.
All right, there you go. You heard it there. Mike Cardano, Vice President of Operations here at SportsGrid. And, Mike, just to confirm, I'm feeling really good, man. I'm alive and well here. Thanks again for coming on.
All right, Craig.
Inside joke with me and Mike Cardano. Can't go any further than that. All right, so let's do this. Let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back, we got some last licks. It's the trade heard around the world. Dallas Mavericks and Los Angeles Lakers. We'll have a breakdown of that and also a whole lot more. As a reminder, folks, as Mike just said, starting 3 o'clock Eastern today, Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast. Make sure you catch all of our live Super Bowl coverage exclusively here on SportsGrid. Big announcements coming your way as well, so keep it right here, no doubt. We'll be back with more and wrap it all up next. Don't go away.
We're going to get rid of all the badness, if you will, over the past few decades for the Raiders and set yourself up for the future. It's a horrible job to take if you expect to win, but it's not a bad paying gig, so go ahead and take it.
With an owner in Mark Davis who has continued to make bad decision after bad decision. Does Pete Carroll leave a culture behind that Joe Brady in 2 to 3 years takes over?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
But is it just a matter of his contract, his age? I mean, usually things like this get fixed pretty quickly, but this one is not fixed, and now it's just super uncomfortable.
The opportunity or the idea of getting another team involved adds more complication to the situation, and it doesn't seem like a resolution is anywhere in sight, but the more suspensions come in, the more it's clear that the saga is over, or his time there is over.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It was the trade heard around the world. Dallas and LA swapping superstars. In fact, a couple of superstars going in different directions, and one NBA player thought it had nothing to do with them and something else. Also, Peyton Manning, his son is getting ready to start playing some ball, and I bet you didn't know it's coming soon. So let's get to it. Time now for some last licks. A lot of funny moments with this trade that happened over the weekend because it happened during some games in the NBA. It was funny seeing Kevin Durant react to it, some fan passing him the phone, him looking at it. And in fact, it also affected an NBA All-Star in Devin Booker, too. Devin Booker, of course, of the Phoenix Suns. I mean, the Suns are waiting for trades, too. Devin Booker, as a matter of fact, didn't even know that it had nothing to do with Luka Doncic. He thought it had to do with Luka Garza. He's a bench player on the Timberwolves. That never plays. Check this out.
Somebody told us on the bench, said Luka. I said, Luka Garza? Like, who got traded? No shade, though.
Right, to Garza, right.
But, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, man.
I don't think that anybody could have anticipated a trade like this. And then look, the reality of a trade like this means that people are going to be shocked. It's a franchise player. Is it one of the biggest trades in the history of sports? I think in the moment, we always are prisoners to that. We won't really know, I think, in the end until we see the result as to whether or not Dallas ends up going far with Anthony Davis. What does the future look like with LA and Luka? How far LeBron goes into this thing? So in the moment, yes, it feels big. But I think this is one of those where we kind of have to play the result and then decide, was it really a mega trade? Did these two players go on to do great things with their future teams? Meanwhile, the fans in Dallas not feeling really good about this. Very bizarre scene going on at their arena right before they got clobbered by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fans showing up in droves and showing up to the Dirk Nowitzki statue outside with a coffin. Really bizarre fan behavior coming from Dallas. I know the Mavericks fans have to be upset. I get it. Because as a fan, you really don't care what's going on behind the scenes. You don't care what happens on social media. You don't care about what people like me say or these TV shows or what anybody has a comment on. I mean, this is somebody that you grew up the last 4 or 5 years watching and play at a very high level, going to the finals, almost winning an MVP in the NBA, and now he's gone. But he didn't die. You don't bring a coffin to an NBA game. And why are these people, this is what I can't understand. Why are they assembling at Dirk's statue? Why is that? I feel bad for Dirk. I feel bad for Dirk's got to be watching this going, what did I do? How did I, as they say, catch a stray? But needless to say, some very, very funny things coming out of this trade as well. I honestly don't know what to compare it to. The closest comparison that I made is probably a very bad one. But in the 1990s in baseball, okay, in the 1990s in baseball, out of nowhere, two teams in the West, in the same division, Oakland A's trade their former MVP of just a few years ago, Jose Canseco, to the Texas Rangers for Ruben Sierra, who was an awesome player at that time as well. And it was a very mixed result trade at the time. How could Canseco possibly get traded? How did Sierra? Now, again, this goes back to the 90s, and I understand we're in a different moment now. People laugh at me and say it doesn't even come close. That's the best comparison that I can remember being shocked that Oakland traded Canseco to Texas. At the time, it felt big. You know what else feels big? A new quarterback coming your way to a high school soon. That is Peyton Manning's son. He was at the Pro Bowl yesterday. Wait, there was a Pro Bowl over the weekend? I didn't even know. Marshall Manning is the son of Peyton Manning. He is 13 years old. And guess what? Yes, we're going to have another Manning quarterback coming through. But folks, it's a long time from now. Let's not push this kid too much. He's just 13 years old. As somebody who has a 12-year-old playing youth sports, let them be a kid, let them enjoy life, multiple sports, the whole thing. But from the very few clips that we saw in this, and certainly we haven't seen his son a ton in video, it seems like his dad, he's got an arm on him. Now remember, Arch Manning is not the son of Eli or Peyton. This is the son of Cooper Manning. So this is the first time the son of either Peyton Manning or Eli Manning is actually on the field. But he used to say this will be a player we'll keep an eye on in the future as well. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to our buddy Mike Cardano for coming on the program. Also, thanks to Carlan Gay of Sporting News and Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report. Also, as a reminder, we've got some great, fantastic, fun programming coming your way. I believe Smiley's show is coming up next. But then at 3 o'clock Eastern, we are live from Radio Row in New Orleans. Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast, taking you all the way throughout the day. I believe Gabe is out there. I'm assuming. I didn't see tweets the last couple of days. I'm assuming he is. Okay, there. So we'll see tweets all day and night coming from that as well. Thanks again to our director, Luke, for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back with more great programming here on our next edition of NewsWire. That's Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everyone.